Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. Now we get into the real meat of 2025. I know many of us are feeling like 2025 has kicked off with a slam, and I have mentioned it's a 9-year, which is about dissolution as we prepare for what we're giving birth to, what we're creating in the next year. So it's a finishing up year. It's also the Chinese snake, wood snake actually. So it's about, again, sloughing off skins, regrowth. And this week is when the first eclipse of the year strikes. So let me talk a little about that. The other thing that happens this week is Mercury goes retrograde. Venus is already retrograde, so that certainly has intensified people's feelings of not having enough, incomes getting narrower, not having the resources they need. And we see this throughout the planet. Different countries, obviously, the USAID craziness with pulling food from children and then deciding it must get back, and Ukraine, supporting Ukraine in and out. In the United States, people who are losing their jobs unexpectedly because of federal cutbacks. So, and yes, the price of eggs is just going up. So there's a continuation of feeling like things are very tight. And it will probably proceed past the Venus retrograde, but that is sense of outrage and things tightening up, which will eventually lead to a sense of perhaps victimization as Venus slips back into Pisces. But right now for this week, we can continue to feel an awareness of tightening, a sense of things are getting less available. And we are seeing that with certain moves or decisions that with the tariffs, the non-tariffs, the sense of not knowing whether speculation or investment is a good idea or not. I mean, both Jupiter and Mars are now direct, but it will be a while before they're back to where they were before they went retrograde. So we're seeing this kind of back and forth, the not really knowing where we're standing. And as the weeks go on, I most likely will be talking more, or I certainly am going to be writing more on my other post-blog area about the conflict going on in North America between Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Each country has a birth chart, and each country has a leader. And so those leaders also represent the country, and we can look at that and kind of dig down into what's going on with each individual at this point in time. Now, the eclipses, which begin this month in March for the year, they always trigger Donald Trump, who is easily triggered anyway, but he was born on an eclipse, a full moon eclipse. So when we're in eclipse season, we do see a lot of volatility around this man who's now president in the United States. So I will talk about that, but the focus of the week's forecast is going to be what's going on for all of us, the overall weather of the week. So starting with Monday, the 10th, the moon is in the sign of Leo, and it is moving in a way that is on the day of Monday, probably inviting a lot of creativity and dialogue. The thing about this particular placement over the next couple of days is that if you think you have a good idea and you're quite excited about it and presenting it, there's also the possibility of something coming out of left field and kind of bonking you on the head with it. And so as we look at people who may be announcing things or saying what they're excited about, just be aware that something can come out of the blue and sort of throw what the concept or idea is. Now, this isn't necessarily bad. I mean, if it's a good idea, it could be another inspiration or concept comes in that puts that idea in a new direction. We're in the waxing moon cycle, so the potential for new energy to come in is quite high, especially as we're going towards that eclipse. I think one of the things that's really important to keep in mind over the next few days is that we want to free ourselves up from the sense of, quote, reality, what we perceive is happening. Because yes, things are happening. There's definitely things going on that have an effect on outcome or decisions people make. It's not all smoke and mirrors, but regardless, whatever our perceptions are of what's going on can be modified. We can work with it. We can spin things in new directions, especially if we allow ourselves a certain flexibility. Now, Monday, Tuesday, the moon, as I said, is in the sign of Leo. Leo is a fixed sign. The fixed signs do not really love change. Yes, newsflash, that includes Aquarius. Aquarius is a change agent, but that doesn't mean that Aquarians like it when change just roars into the room and they aren't part of the orchestration of that. They like to basically deem what they consider the changes should be. So with Leo, there's this desire to delegate, to have things happen the way the Leo voice intends. Interesting with the Vice President of the United States now, J.D. Vance, being a Leo with a Scorpio moon. He might be a good example of what I'm talking about over in the news, where he might have some idea or blurt something out and gets the thing that happens that sort of shifts the stage, or the trap door opens up beneath him, or something occurs that just shows no, direction has to change. And when directions change and we are adaptable or flexible to it, that can be quite exciting because we can invite in or do something that isn't quite what we anticipated, but you want to catch that thing as it flies in if it's something you want to catch. Otherwise, duck and let it go where it needs to go. But overall, these couple of days can be productive, exciting, stimulating. When we get to Tuesday, Mercury is starting to slow down. It goes retrograde end of week. So we may be feeling, especially those of us with strong Gemini, Virgo, or Mercury placements in the horoscope, we may be feeling this sense of things aren't quite going as I expected or anticipated. So this is a really good time, beginning of the week, to be backing up files and, again, anticipating that things may not go exactly as planned, but the adaptability factor is huge. Especially think about this year in general. 9-year, wood snake, a lot of things, the ground is moving beneath us, essentially. Things are changing. So digging in heels and deciding, no, I'm holding on to this, and this is going to be the way it's always been, is not really going to work out that well. Whether or not one agrees with, for instance, what the present administration is doing in the United States, that sense of taking things apart is definitely a big factor of where we're at. Also, the outer planets are all going to be shifting into different signs before this year's over. So, and that's another factor of March that is a huge thing to anticipate. End of month, Neptune moves for the first time into Aries. Yes, this is going to be a very big deal over 2025 into 2039. And the last time this occurred was 1861 to 1875. And again, I will be writing and talking more about that in the future. So as we move towards that full moon eclipse that happens on Friday this week, we want to definitely be taking advantage of full awareness over the next few days, because the eclipse itself seems to me to be a real invitation for dreaming, imagining. And I'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. But to finish the 11th, Tuesday, the moon goes void, of course, at 4:16 p.m., times I give her Eastern time. And then it's void for the rest of the day. So it's void in the sign of Leo. This really is asking us to play, to relax creatively, to romance, to dance, to do things that are about celebrating the fact that you are alive with childlike anticipation and wonder. And this isn't going to be easy for everybody, but that's why I suggest watch a movie that takes you out of your regular space, or do something that's going to allow you a sense of more ability to create something that is not what you feel is being created around you. On the 12th, Wednesday, the moon enters Virgo at 3:56 a.m. And the other thing I should note on this day is in the early morning, the Sun and Saturn are in exact alignment. So Saturn is, from our perspective, in behind the Sun, and we can't see it, but it's what the symbolism of astrology is speaking about is there is a determination energy in the sky on this day. It is in the sign of Pisces, so that just, to me, it escalates that sense of being able to vision. So we want to be in the place of the higher octave of Piscean energy, which is about love, connectivity, doing things that make us feel part of the whole instead of feeling like you're bereft and on the outcast. And certainly some people can be feeling that, absolutely. But especially if you have the luxury of, of a home, of being fed, of a job, whatever's going on in your life, if you think about the emphasizing gratitude aspects when you have things to be grateful for, as opposed to those who really are in very difficult straits. And there's a lot of that on the planet right now. So we want to work on balancing that energy, not falling into a sense of, oh, woe is me, and everything's too hard. If things feel hard, do something small that allows you that sense of, I've created something, I've completed something, I can cross something off my list. When we get stuck in places that feel like we can't move, it's very difficult to move. So whatever frees that inertia, especially once we move past that Sun-Saturn conjunction, we can start to get a little space in there and free it up a bit. So we want to work the soil. Remember, the moon is in the sign of Virgo over the next couple of days. And Virgo's about, I always see it as, because it's an earth sign, it's mutable. So I always see it as the soil that can be worked. You know, it's able to be broken up and hoed, and seeds can be planted in it. It accepts new energy. It allows things to come in. So Wednesday can feel a little uphill because we can feel like, oh, I'm working the soil. I'm coming up with new ideas. I'm really putting my shoulder into it, and I want to make this happen, but gosh, it's like uphill all the time. That's where it's important to invite in space the idea of something can come in that's unanticipated, that can allow more flow. An example that just flew into my head is you're working soil and it's hard and it's dry and it's not giving. And even though it hasn't been predicted, by the end of the day, you can see some clouds coming in and a gentle rain starts to soften, so that over the course of the evening, the acceptance of the soil allows more seeds to enter and spread and create new ways of being. And it's not necessarily easier on Thursday, but I think part of what happens is we start to feel or see things that are working or coming together. And so we can be grateful for the small wins or the things that connect in ways that give us a sense of potential and, yes, hope and expectation. And towards the end of the day, especially late evening, some of us may feel tired, even defeated, or a sense of, well, this is just so uphill. How do I get any place that's not uphill? And here's the thing. A lot of talk was happening last month in late January about planetary alignment. And the things about this string of planets across the sky is that the planets move across the ecliptic. This is what they do. And so it's wonderful when people pay attention to the sky and look at what's going on. It's not necessarily something that is, wow, this like amazing moment. But to me, part of what was intriguing about how the internet was able to capture the imagination of people by this is there was a sense of order. And it's as though we were reminded we live in a cosmic order. And even though we're in this place that feels like total chaos right now, where so many things are unraveling, and it seems like the people who are in charge or have the power are just doing things that just continue to disempower other people, the planet, creatures, that it's just all unraveling. And yet there's a cosmic order. So this time that feels so as though everything is dissolving and nothing is making sense is also poising us for what are we decisively going to do to move into what does make sense. And so each of us, in whatever small way we can, needs to be concentrating on how do I create a sense of order, routine, vision in a world that looks like it's totally unraveling. If it's totally unraveling, what do I want it to look like? And so as we move into this eclipse, which occurs, let me see, so the exact time is 2:55 a.m., again, Eastern time. And it's a full moon at 23 degrees, Virgo, 57 minutes. And Mercury goes retrograde Eastern time on Saturday the 15th at 2:46 a.m. So depending on where you are on the planet, both these events are happening on the same day. I mean, within the same 24 hours. So what's occurring here is we're really being asked to go within. I mean, when I look at the horoscope for this eclipse, it shows a lot of the planets that were in this planetary alignment. Saturn, the sun being considered a planet, a wanderer in ancient Greek. The North Node, destiny point, because it's an eclipse, so the nodes are always involved in the eclipses because they're the points in space where the sun and moon intersect in the point in space. So it's a hypothetical point, essentially. So, of course, they're going to be close to eclipses because the moon and sun are in the same degrees, whether they're opposite or a new moon. And Neptune, which is at late degree Pisces, because as I said, it goes into Aries end of the month. So these planets, these points in space, are really activating, infusing that moon. They're lighting up that moon, the moon in Virgo. And so the moon in Virgo is pulling up her sleeves and saying, okay, well, what's the work I have to do here? Well, the work, when you have Saturn, Neptune so close to one another, Neptune being the planet symbolizing imagination, spirituality, the things that are numinous that we can't quite define, creativity, inspiration, also a sense of nothingness. What are we without our physical bodies? What are we without a sense of being able to create our own destinies? But Saturn's there. Saturn's saying, yes, I'm in Pisces, which is imagination and numinous and the beyond, what's real. So Saturn in Pisces, wow, that's a real contrast, because Saturn's the planet that's about what defines us, what limits us, how we concretize things. And Neptune's about nothing and yet everything, the infinite. So how do we pull these energies together? It's very interesting. I mean, people who are born with this conjunction, Saturn-Neptune, they either never kind of are able to pull things together because it just is all so big to them, or they're incredible at creating things that are just huge concepts. And so what we're being invited to do with this eclipse is to see what comes in. What comes in? It can be a flash. It can be something you read, something you see, something that inspires you, a conversation you have, a person who pops into your life. And it's fleeting. It's an eclipse. But that doesn't mean we can't take action on it, especially if that point, that eclipse point, is triggering us in some way. So look at where that full moon is falling in your horoscope, late degree, Virgo, Pisces. And that'll give you an idea what houses, what areas of life are active for you at this point in time. And because of the nature of the eclipse, it's a bit elusive. Remember, Mercury is going retrograde. So it's so important to jot things down. If you let it just fly out of your butterfly net, it'll be gone. You'll have trouble remembering what the colors were. Where was it taking you? But if you jot down some thoughts, if somehow you record it, talking to your phone, sing a song, come up with a poem, pluck some flowers, something that just reminds you of the moment, even if it's not anything you can articulate, you will be able to in time. So the moon goes void, of course, at 1:47 p.m., and it enters Libra at 2:59 p.m. So this weekend actually seems to me like a very busy weekend for friends, for conversations. It can be if you're involved in some sort of litigation or something that you're trying to come to terms with, it can be a bit tense. But that's okay because you're working through the knots of it. And remember, Mercury is retrograde now, so you don't want to sign contracts if you can avoid it. You don't want to say, yes, this is absolutely where we're going. But it can be very helpful to have conversations that work these things out. So the moon goes void, of course, at 5:53 a.m. on Sunday, and then it's void, of course, all day. So if possible, make Sunday a day of rest, a day where maybe you organize your desk or clean your closet or do something that just gets you in place for what's going to happen over the coming week. Because it's really a day that's asking you, Work on things already in motion. Don't start anything new. And chill. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.